The biggest developments come from the ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict, where the focus of the war is increasingly shifting away from the front line and deeper into critical energy infrastructure inside Russia. In recent reports, Ukraine has launched a new wave of coordinated drone strikes targeting Russian oil facilities, ports, and energy logistics hubs. These strikes are not isolated incidents, but part of a wider operational pattern aimed at weakening Russia's ability to sustain its war economy and frontline supply chains. Over the past several days, Ukrainian drones have been reported striking oil terminals, storage depots, and key energy export facilities, including sites in Russia's western and Baltic regions. One of the major incidents involved an attack on a strategic oil port in the Baltic Sea area, where fires were reported following the strike, although Russian officials claimed most drones were intercepted before reaching their targets. At the same time, Russia has reported multiple Ukrainian drone incursions across different regions, indicating that the intensity of long-range strike operations is increasing from both sides. These developments suggest that the war is no longer confined to traditional battlefield zones, but is now expanding into deep-strike economic targeting. Recently, both Ukraine and Russia have also carried out reciprocal attacks that resulted in casualties on both sides, with at least several deaths reported across different regions. This highlights how the conflict continues to escalate not only in scale but also in geographic reach. What makes this phase of the war particularly significant is the shift in strategy. Instead of focusing solely on military positions near the front line, Ukraine is increasingly targeting Russia's energy infrastructure, including oil refineries, transport terminals, and logistics nodes that play a key role in funding and sustaining military operations. Oil infrastructure is especially critical because it directly connects to Russia's export revenue and internal fuel supply for military vehicles, aviation, and logistics networks. By disrupting these systems, Ukraine aims to apply indirect pressure on Russia's operational capacity rather than relying only on direct battlefield confrontation. At the same time, Russia continues to respond with large-scale drone and missile strikes of its own, targeting Ukrainian infrastructure in an attempt to maintain pressure and disrupt Ukraine's defensive production and supply systems. This creates a continuous cycle of escalation, where each side attempts to offset the other's strategic advantages. Another important factor in this phase of the conflict is the increasing reliance on drone technology. Both Ukraine and Russia are now heavily dependent on unmanned aerial systems for long-range strikes, reconnaissance, and tactical disruption. These systems allow attacks to be carried out at extended distances with relatively lower operational risk compared to traditional air operations. The result is a battlefield that is no longer defined only by physical front lines, but by overlapping strike zones that extend deep into each other's territories. Energy infrastructure, ports, supply depots, and logistics routes have become primary targets, making the economic dimension of the war just as important as the military one. In strategic terms, this type of warfare creates long-term pressure on supply chains. When oil refineries or transport terminals are disrupted, it affects fuel availability, transportation efficiency, and industrial output. Over time, this can slow down military resupply, increase operational costs, and create broader economic strain. At the same time, continuous drone activity forces both sides to invest more resources into air defense systems, surveillance networks, and counter-drone technologies. This adds another layer of complexity to the conflict, as both offensive and defensive capabilities continue to evolve rapidly. Overall, the current phase of the Russia-Ukraine war shows a clear shift toward deep-strike, infrastructure-focused warfare. Instead of only controlling land, the objective is increasingly about disrupting the systems that support military endurance and economic stability. And as both sides continue expanding their drone capabilities, the conflict is likely to become even more distributed, unpredictable, and technologically driven in the coming months.